Fantastic. So, for those of you that have not heard about Garnet, I would like to take this opportunity and first of all welcome Garnet. Garnet, maybe you can just take a few moments and just share with us some of your insights, some of your past involvement within this industry, and just share with us your core beliefs, your philosophies, etc.
Sure, I'll do all
And
that
you
in
only have to
60
add 2 minutes
seconds,
as well, by the way.
yeah, in 60 seconds or less, right? Um, Thank you all, and thanks for taking the time to check in on this webinar. Yeah, always a little embarrassing to talk about yourself. By the way, I'm sitting up here in northern Thailand where I live. Um, I'm in the mountain rainforest and looking out the windows at a bazillion shades of green. And I live here full time. I'm married, and I've spent a majority of my life in the U.S., a lot of it in California. My whole life has been dedicated to complementary and alternative health care in one way or another. And I was a teacher for many, many years, and became increasingly involved in the expanding wellness industry. I'm 65, so I've had the chance to kind of grow with it. Um, Hard to know, like there are high points. I was the co-founder of the First Day Spa in Los Angeles. My wife and I here own a gorgeous spa down in Bangkok we're very proud of. I've been a consultant to numerous companies around the world. I've been co-founders and co-owners in different companies focusing in advanced biophysical devices and including biofeedback devices. Some of the earliest products out there had programs that I designed, and I've also been co-founder and owner of some of those products. I got out of the biofeedback industry for a period of time when I relocated here to northern Thailand. And I spent a lot of my life here in the forest. Luckily, internet communication allows all sorts of facility that never existed before. And I'm looking out right now at a big compound. I do rescue work with gibbons, and we raise all sorts of small primates and lots and lots of other animals up here. So a lot of my life is spent sitting with and being with animals in the forest, which is actually a beautiful complement to working with information-coded biofeedback. I decided to come back into the industry a couple of years ago. Ryan, who's been a friend for a long while and also a peer in our work, we decided to form an alliance and then a new company called Possibility Wave. And through Possibility Wave, create a new generation of information-coded biofeedback apps. The Quantum Life is the generous host of this webinar, and they're also a distributor of Possibility Wave products, the first one being this Emotional Insight app, which is an app designed for personal use, as well as the fact that shortly we'll be coming out with a major professional practitioner application called Adapt Wellness that focuses uniquely on the adaptive capacities. So that's a little bit of a peek, and I approach life, I think, fundamentally through a spiritual perspective. So, ethics and helping is a large part of what I see. Thanks, Ryan. That's that. So don't ever ask me again. It's embarrassing.
You know what? I've got it recorded. I'm going to post it to all the social media outlets now anyway.
Oh, man, nothing but trouble.
So, just looking at the list of, some of the attendees here, I can see that some of you originate, from the old sort of quantum biofeedback days. And, where quantum life was actually introduced to Garnet was back in the early days of, one of the original quantum biofeedback instruments. And Garnet was actually one of the primary co-contributors to the development of some of the original quantum biofeedback technology. So, many of you that are still currently using quantum biofeedback, there are certain, components and certain processes that when you are using that equipment, a large part of that, the design aspects have actually been stimulated through the works of Garnet Dupree. And I think in many ways, what you are actually looking at here with emotional insight, he's been able to take certain aspects and certain components of that and been able to create it into a really simple, super easy to use app. So with that said, Garnet, maybe you could just sort of share with us, again, I'll give you your sort of 60-second sort of opportunity here, but just share with us a sort of brief overview about emotional, about emotional insight. Really, what I guess my question is, what is the inspiration, or what inspired you to actually create a concept like emotional insight?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it, and maybe at some point more than a minute or two. I think anybody working in the domain of wellness, and especially and specifically the new advanced forms of biofeedback, have always had the experience, and I've had this experience, where as you're going through the process working with people, regardless of what the intent or the goal of the session, oftentimes physical issues of health, there is always a psychological, emotional tone or component to the experience. And that became increasingly more evident to me the more because I worked as a practitioner, not just a designer. And the psycho-emotional elements became more and more evident to me as an aspect of the experience that could not be separated from everything else. And I began to pay more attention to that with the realization that in and of itself, there was a huge potential in advanced biofeedback to work in this area of psycho-emotional processes. And I began to do, and some of you may have known my work in the past, I began to assemble a kind of an integrated process using classic psychological techniques, elements of brain entrainment, sensitive assessment techniques, and even now voice analysis, and designing it in such a way that you could maximize the insight experience that was potential in the process all the time, but never really was brought forward. So it developed over time. There was no aha moment. There were a series of just appreciations and realizations. The truth is that as a practitioner, as I began to work with this, but I didn't have the direct facility. It was sort of a patchwork of things that I had to do, that I had professional mental health care practitioners, clinical psychologists, PhD psychologists, even psychiatrists coming to me for sessions for themselves, making the claim that in 1 to 3 sessions that they gained as much or more insight into their issues as they could in 1 to 2 years of the processes that they normally used. When I heard that, I really sat up in my chair. So over time, and then the decision to create Possibility Wave and to introduce new generations of information coded biofeedback, this is one of the areas that I wanted to maximize. And, along with, and as you may be clear, Ryan is my partner in Possibility Wave. We decided to go directly to the user because of technology that's evolved now. We're so far past desktops and even laptops, and create a direct user experience in the emotional insight processes, knowing full well that we have a full professional practitioner design very much expanded on these core processes, and that'll come out later through Possibility Wave. But we wanted to go straight to the user right away, direct experience, emotional insight. So this is the birth of a baby that's actually been in gestation, I have to honestly say, for at least 15 years, slowly forming itself, and now being married to the new technology, smartphones and tablets.
So, Gonan, I think, with that said, I really enjoy the fact that you sort of speak about the birth, but, I wouldn't be me if I didn't ask you to maybe, tie that into some of the mannerisms in terms of the relationships that you have with your gibbons. And I know we've discussed this before, but maybe you could just sort of share some of your insights, because I think this is a core component about Garnet, and is in terms of his sort of loving, nurturing nature, and that's been transposed onto the gibbons. And in working with Garnett in the development of this app, it's in many ways it's sort of taken on like a sort of human form of its own, where he's treated this as a child. Well, I guess more in sort of Garnett's case, it's the gibbons. So, I hope you don't mind me sort of taking you on a slight curveball, but could you share some of your insights about the gibbons and the relationship that you have with them as well, please?
I will a little. It's definitely highly personal, and it's impossible to imagine until you have the experience of caring for apes. Gibbons are apes, and especially if they're challenged. Some have physical disabilities, and so a lot of medical care and surgeries and so on. But I guess the thing that I'll make it brief, because I don't know that it is kind of a curveball question, I'll admit, but that there are lots of things I used to believe that I don't believe anymore, and things like I don't believe in inside and outside. That's one thing I think it's a silly idea, inside outside. The other thing I think is the way that we think of species. We think of the humans as kind of a pinnacle or something like that. And it's not my experience at all. And working and living and caring, and I mean, believe me, even sleeping with these apes at different times, I've given up the concept of species. To me, all beings being together, and that different species simply have a different perspective on reality. I don't much believe in, another thing I don't believe anymore is high and low. I don't believe in high and low. I don't believe inside, outside. I also don't believe in species. So, undoubtedly this has affected the development of the Emotional Insight app, because the app recognizes the ability to work with the conscious levels of experience, subconscious and unconscious. And when you're intimately involved with animals, especially animals of this complexity, the way that you learn to communicate moves quickly away from the intellectual into a more immediate experience as far as consciousness. And, I'll leave it at that, because I'm a little bit of a private person in that way. It's like you love to speak about your children, but only to a certain degree. And I don't say they're my children, but, I share my life with them. So, yeah, I just believe that we all have our own perspectives. And, you can see it in the subtitle of this app. It's be true to yourself. And this app will work for you if you're true to yourself. If you're open and you're willing, if you're sincere and you use the app, it's going to work. I guess that's what my gibbons have taught me. Okay, next question, Ryan.
Yeah, you know what, and thank you very much. I certainly support that. Those of you that have actually downloaded the trial version, I may have put out an email to you, and if there's one thing that I can certainly support or certainly echo is if you just take a moment and, for me, I certainly had to be alone, but if you are really true to yourself and you input the information, it's pretty remarkable, the information that actually comes back at you. Anyway, moving on to the actual app. So, Garnett, thank you very much for that. Again,
Sure.
I certainly do respect your privacy, but I certainly as well appreciate your insights and how those two actually blend together. So, what I'd like to do, first of all, those of you that I think today's presentation will be a sort of informal sort of question and answers. So, if you do have any questions, on the right-hand side, you have your GoToWebinar control panel. You have a little question icon. Please feel free to go ahead and type your questions there. And if they're nice questions, we'll get to them. If they're not nice, we'll just probably pretend we didn't see them. No, I'm only joking. We'll actually get to all the questions. So please, don't be shy. Go ahead and post your questions. Garnett, what I'd like to ask you at the moment, if you don't mind, Emotional Insight, it's got three main processes. You've got your subconscious, your conscious, and then your unconscious. Why are there three? And then essentially, how do these three sort of relate to one another? And I'm actually going to go to that page as well. So those of you, hopefully, I'm not going to share with you my current concerns. Maybe I can just do pass if you don't mind. Okay. So Garnett, please, if you can just go ahead and share with us your insights while I get to that page.
Yeah. just before I say anything more about the three processes, it's extremely important to appreciate the step we just jumped over, where you express your current issue. Now,
Please, yeah.
that begins the actual process, where you have sometimes, as a matter of fact, many times, we have some kind of disconcerted, kind of unsettled experience, an issue, but we're not really able to target or define it. And just in the process of being able to speak it and then write a short, clear sentence already begins the therapeutic journey of exploration. So it is not just something that you need to do to set up the processes that are the important things. This is the anchor or the compass or something like that for all the process. That's why you've got to spend your moment here, do your best to convey it in such a way that it's short and clear. You know, the advice I would say, could you describe your current issue in such a way that a 12-year-old could understand it? Okay, so we can speak more about that. There'll be future trainings and different distributors that'll expand upon it, as will I. But that's the first step. Okay, the three: spontaneous insight, creative imagery, and secrets and lies. Ryan, can you still hear me, just to make sure?
Yes, I can. And again, just to reiterate, on the expressing your current issue, I figured I'd just type in there pass, if you don't mind, because I figured we didn't want to get into, I'm quite happy to keep my personal issues, my personal issues as well.
Okay. Anyway, you know, here's an analogy, or maybe just a metaphor. To me, it's like being on a deep lake or even the ocean. There's what you can see floating right on the surface. I would say that's exploring your conscious mind. Then there's, if it's still enough, you can see into some depth. It's under the water, but near enough to the surface that if it's calm, you can experience it. That would be creative imagery, the exploring your subconscious mind. And then there are the depths. No matter how hard you look from the surface, you can't see it. It may even be so deep that you can't even physically go there. Hold your breath, dive deep, you can't. So what we need to do, in this case, extending the analogy to fishing, is that we use certain hooks with bait. We drop it in and kind of go fishing. And that's what I had experienced over time to be the benefit of working with secrets and lies. Using secrets and lies, as the analogy is a bit strange, as hooks with bait was a way of accessing and exploring your unconscious mind. Any one of these three will lead you through processes of exploration, discovery, decision makings, and ending in action strategies, practical things that you can do. One is not better than the other. They offer different vantage points. What I would normally recommend, especially to users that don't have a guide, a practitioner, like for this app, and it may be counterintuitive when you look at the list, but begin with creative imagery. Creative imagery is something that makes the exploration process easier to do. Spontaneous insight requires a really loose and fluid ability to recognize thoughts and impressions that come, and not all of us have that skill developed at a high level. You can develop it using this. Most people would find the secrets and lies the most challenging, and I would agree with them, because it is dealing with the unconscious, and you know, you don't always catch the fish as soon as you drop the line. Creative imagery, with its use of the amazing aspect of the mind to imagine things, works in such a way that you have a kind of a construct that you can access that allows you to explore without putting too much demand on the process itself. So you can choose any one of the three. My suggestion to begin is creative imagery. Do as you like. And notice that each one holds a certain perspective. Each one holds a certain facility that will, in my experience, inevitably lead you to different perspectives on the same issue. Some people would actually choose to run more than one process in relation to a single session, meaning in relation to a single current issue. That's a pretty big meal to eat. I would normally recommend without a practitioner that you choose one and use that for the session, and then keep on working with the action strategies and even the insight reinforcements over a period of some few days minimally before you jump back in again. But you know, this is the flexibility of the program. It's really up to you. As we say, you know, trust yourself.
Be true to yourself, absolutely.
Be true to yourself. Yeah.
I have a few questions here that I'm appearing, if you don't mind. I'm just going to go ahead and just read them out, and we'll just keep it a sort of fluid conversation.
Sure.
Does emotional insight correct or remove any emotions that are not serving you, or that are essentially not serving you? If it does correct it, what is the process, and then how much time should you plan for that?
Okay, you know, this brings up a very interesting point. There's no single dominant mechanism in the app. The app works in different ways, and it may not be apparent to begin with. You know, there's a tendency in the beginning to give the app, in a sense, too much magical power. If there is any magical power, and I do believe magical power exists, it's certainly within the individual. Being true to yourself is the guiding factor. And all of this has been designed in such a way that it acts as a kind of subtle but complex mirror. It's going to mirror to you yourself. Now, emotions that are correct or not. By the way, you'll note that when we get into these insight reinforcements, one form are the sonic signatures. Those are encoded forms of the famous Bach flower remedies. And Edward Bach had, to me, a profound realization that is oftentimes either not highlighted or can be misunderstood. And I'm paraphrasing. He said that the emotions that we have, in a sense, have, like Janus the god, like two faces. One is the virtuous, one is the vicious. And we can have what we think to be a problem with a certain emotion, and we label it bad, and we want it to go away. In a sense, we want to correct it. We want to get rid of it. He said that it's like a coin. I'm paraphrasing again. It's a coin, and that this aspect of your personality can be problematic, or it can be the source of benefit and solution. He said that identifying the key elements of your challenge also identifies the positive gifts that you're able to bring into the world. And that is an extraordinary, and to me, not well appreciated facet of working with emotions. Other traditions also see it in a similar way. I have experiences in Tibetan Buddhism. I have certain practices and teachers, and they have a similar kind of appreciation. So I'm sort of dancing around the question a little bit, because I think the question has to be looked at more closely before a good answer can be given. The Emotional Insight app is designed to act, again, as a metaphor, as a mirror. It's going to mirror to you. It's going to show you things about yourself that are true to you, but that perhaps you've not been able to see as clearly as you can using the mirror. What it does is it allows an exploration to turn into a discovery, meaning that you can appreciate something in a way that perhaps you hadn't appreciated it before. And then it opens a door. It creates a very direct psychological opportunity to recognize what you can do about it. It's what we call in the app the action strategy. So, you know, the mirroring process is going to give you access to elements of yourself that perhaps you didn't have as easy an access before. It's going to reflect back to you. It always gives you choices. It's always asking of you. the app is not designed to develop findings that are then, in a sense, shoved down your throat. No, it always works with the respectful understanding that these processes can exhibit to you significant probabilities, things for you to consider. You know, look in the mirror and consider, do you want to part your hair on the right or do you want to part your hair on the left? It allows you to do something better than you could have done it without the feedback. So in that sense, correcting, I'll leave that word undefined right now, but certainly you can advance your understandings, create action strategies so that the current issue that you've identified becomes easier and easier to appreciate and then to modify and then hopefully to grow out of if it's a challenge.
Thank you, Gonit. On that note, I'm actually at the Insight Reinforcements page. So while I'm here, maybe you can just, sort of share some of your thoughts about the differences between the crystalline strategy and the sonic signatures as well, please.
Yeah, sure. First of all, pay attention to the label of this category, Insight Reinforcements. Insight. The concept of the app is it's going to allow you to have increasing levels of insight into your emotional experiences. It's going to lead you into discoveries that will then lead you into your own developed action strategies. Meaning now you know what you're going to do about it over this next period of time, and you're going to enact those new behaviors, those new attitudes. That's not always easy. The idea is that it'd be great if you had something that you could use to reinforce that new strategy. It's like if you went to a classic Bachflower practitioner, and they spent time, interviewed with you, they collected together information, and they put together a complex remedy for you. And they said, use it a few drops 3 or 4 times a day as you go about attempting to improve your life in the ways that you decide you want to. They're reinforcements. They're not direct mechanisms that make something happen. They're not, on the other end, they're not magical, meaning you can take them and then what the hell, whatever you do doesn't matter because the remedy is going to do it for you. In emotional insight, the insight reinforcements are just that. They reinforce the insights that you've been gathering and support your new action strategy. So what you, I think, should do is use them as sound therapies. You don't drop them in your mouth. They're used by listening and also introducing them into the whole energetic field of your mind and body. And you use them, hopefully, some number of times a day for anywhere from 3-5 minutes at a time, maybe longer if you want. 20 minutes is sort of a classic thing. And combined with your decision making, combined with your new clarified insight, they're going to move you along. They're going to support you. They're going to reinforce the whole experience that you've had. They're going to reinforce your efforts. And we have 2 different categories here. The crystalline strategy is really, it's an elegant process that transfers the action strategy sentence that you would have logged into an information coded sound therapy. So as you listen to it, even though you don't get it at an irrational intellectual level, at a level of intention and conscious awareness, listening to that is constantly going to be returning you and reinforcing you into that action strategy. The sonic signatures are a little bit more conventional in the sense that they're information-coded signatures of specific Bach flower remedies that are well known to enhance different emotional processes, insights, and discoveries. You can use one, you can use the other, or you can oscillate back and forth. It doesn't matter. Both of them work, and you may find one that you favor over the other. So insight reinforcements are actually sound therapies that are directly developed out of the session process and applied directly to that session. One thing I think that's worthwhile mentioning right now on a practical level, Ryan, is the fact that every session that you do and complete ends up creating a session overview document. And Ryan, if you don't mind, maybe you can go to that.
Absolutely.
At the end of the session, regardless of whether you do spontaneous insight, creative imagery, or secrets and lies, you're going to end up with, okay, he's going through different screens. He's going to end up with, okay, if you want to pull up one, or
you know what? Unfortunately, I can't because this is a sort of simulator mode. But essentially, just to give you an idea, I mean, once you click on this, I think it'll store up to about 18 or 19 different sessions that you've had.
Okay, so that what you have is you have a session overview. Every important thing.
Wait, let me.
Yeah, the session overview.
I'm sorry, let me see if I can get there. Hang on.
I think if you go to the icons at the bottom. Actually, hold that screen for just a second. Don't go. Oh, you went. It's okay.
That's all right. I can multitask.
Okay, I want everybody to notice something at the bottom of the screen before you jump. Don't jump. You jump. Can you go back? I want to show the help button in the bottom right-hand corner.
Certainly, hang on.
You can go back to that later. No big deal. Back. Okay, everybody, you see that right there? Essentially, 98% of all the screens have that question mark icon. That gives you specific information about the screen that you're on. So if at any point in time, if you want, because you're new to the process, if you want some help understanding that screen, just click on the question mark, and this pop-up will come up, and you'll have information that is specifically giving you advice about that screen. Okay, so that's always in your back pocket for help. Thank you. The session overview. Yeah, okay. Okay, the session overview, it's shown here in part because of the screen size. It logs in all the information that was gathered in that session. So you've got that as a reference all the time. The app does store, I thought it was as many as 25. We'll have to clarify that. It's going to store sessions for you. If you want to keep forever the kind of the notes from your session, you can just do a screenshot of the session overview screen and then store it in your device. That's a little sort of side hint about forever storage. On the session overview screen, when you go there, you'll see the big green button that's obvious on this screen right now, Access Insight Reinforcements. So let's say 3 days ago you did a session, and of course the session, when you completed it, resulted in insight reinforcements. And you want to use them because you know by using them on a regular basis, they're going to help you over the next few days or weeks or month or so before you go to another session. What you do is you go to User Records, find your name, open your name. You're going to see the list of the sessions that you did. Choose the one from whatever, 3 days ago. Open it up. What you've got is you're going to have access to the session overview. Okay, I think Ryan is...
I can't actually go any further because this is the only session that I've got on this simulator.
Okay. If a person, let's say that you've done 4 sessions before, and the most recent one was 3 days ago, you could just go to your name, Ryan Williams. Because there are no more other sessions, you can't show it here. You would click on it. It would open up and show every session that you did. It would show if it was spontaneous insight or creative imagery or whatever. It would show the time and the date. The one you want to access, you just click on. It opens the session overview. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I remember this. And right there is your Access Insight Reinforcements button. So you click on it, and you've got the sonic signatures that you want to use for that session. So it isn't just a one-time shot. When you do a session, it'll result in a session overview panel. It'll also result in specific insight reinforcements. You can use them at the end of that session or any time later, a few days later, or every day for a few days. Keep going back to it. How do you get to the insight reinforcements? User Records, find your name, click on your name, see the sessions you did, choose the session that you want. It'll open to Session Overview. When you see Session Overview, you have your access to insight reinforcements. Click on it, there you go. Use them again and again and again and again. We have, I don't know if you're all aware or whether you've taken advantage, but in the emotionalinsightsapp.com, emotionalinsightsapp.com, all one word, when you open it and scroll down, you'll see that you have access to some narrated PowerPoint presentations. As an introduction, I did a 1-hour-long narrated PowerPoint presentation on all the significant features and concepts of the Emotional Insight app. So, at any point in time, you can go there, listen to all or part of it if you want. There will be other ones coming out. They'll be shorter, 5-10 minutes at a time, looking at each and every one of these. And I'm quite confident that there'll be other persons, Ariel is one of them, that will also be putting together their own points of view to help you better understand how to use this. It's a unique app in the sense that you use it by yourself, for yourself. Of course, you can invite other people onto your app if you want family or friends to use your device. But there's no practitioner. So because you are your own helper, we've done our best to support that and will continue to support it. Right now, you'll see on the screen that Add Spoken Voice Guide button is off. If you turn that on, as maybe you have already, there'll be a very clear, pleasant voice, a female voice, guiding you through every single step in all of the processes. And that's a lovely feature because it doesn't mean you have to read everything on screen. The voice guide speaks the same instructions as you see on the screen.
Hello, I am your spoken voice guide, and I will help you move through the emotional insight processes. The words I speak and the words on the screen are the same. Right now, notice that
I think we need to give her a name, Garnet.
Give her a name?
Yeah. We'll have to, I guess
Okay,
maybe
well,
that can be like version 2.0. The Add Spoken
okay.
Voice Guide will have a special name.
Okay. Maybe right now on screen, if you have a line of questions, please continue. But
You know
right
what?
on screen,
I actually do. If you don't mind, Garnet,
yeah.
I think, in some ways we've sort of gone, from here to there. I think just looking at this, it really would have been nice if we actually could have taken a sort of live, test subject and actually really taken, their concern and actually moved through that whole process. Those of you that have not downloaded the demo program, I certainly would urge you to try it, just for the simple reason it's really simple to download, and secondly, it's really simple to use. So with that said, just looking at the number of attendees that we have, I think a good sort of 95% of you have actually downloaded the program. And as long as you have followed the prompts, you should have actually navigated through the screens relatively easily. So with that said, Garnet, maybe you could just touch on the concept about the actual sort of end result, that action strategy. How does that come about, and then how do they actually use that information, please?
Okay. Sure. The action strategy. It's based on a principle that you know best what is best for yourself. That nobody knows you better than yourself. It may not always be simple to recognize what you know about yourself, and therein lies the challenge. I believe that given the right opportunity, giving a compassionate support and a mirroring process, along with certain other enhancements, that it's possible to see things about yourself, accept things about yourself, and even know what to do for yourself. So if you wanted to encapsulate the whole process of emotional insight, I would say the first thing is identify your current issue in a short, clear sentence.
Sorry.
And once you do that, tell me what you can do for yourself to help resolve this current issue. That would be the action strategy. And, in the right circumstance, in the right mood, with the right helper, it's amazing how much information we can accept about ourselves, and even decide what to do about it. What I've done with the emotional insight is create a series of processes that connect the dots between identifying your current issue and clarifying what you can do about it, your action strategy. It's connect the dots. And there are 3 different ways of doing that: spontaneous insight, creative imagery, secrets, and lies. But they are processes that allow you to connect the dots. The action strategy gives you a tangible set of things to do, ways of recognizing adjustments to your attitude, way of adjusting behaviors and actions that you take in life. That's the core of the program: current issue, action strategy. Everything else is to connect the dots, because it isn't always easy to make that leap. So that's what all the processes do. And we'll talk more about some of the supports, things like the entrainment tones and so on. The insight reinforcements act to constantly fortify, stabilize, and reinforce your real life action strategy. The belief that I have is that we can trust ourselves. But many of us have doubted ourselves. We need help. And it's amazing how themes can recycle and recycle and recycle. You know, when working with clients using these processes in the earlier forms, so I didn't have the specific process, I would cobble it together. The one thing that I remember the most is I would ask a person in different ways. You know, they would make a statement. They would make, in the spontaneous insight, you know, they would make the sentence, or in the art gallery of creative imagery, or even the secrets and lies. They would come to something, and they would use the clues that came up in the program. And I would say to them, is there any amount of, I don't know if you can hear the sound in the background, I apologize. I've got some construction going on.
No,
Can
we're
you hear
fine.
that, Ryan?
Yeah, no, we're fine.
Sorry? Okay. Actually, I'm building a new compound for the Gibbons, so I've got some workers out there. I would ask them, is there any amount of truth in what you've just said, knowing that they made it the sentence themselves using the clues that have emerged, you know, and I'm not making this up. So many of them would pause, look at me with this special look in their eyes, and they said, it's the story of my life. It's the story of my life. You know, when you sit with somebody as a helper and they arrive at that, you can feel, you know, what we'll call the energy. You can feel something change. You can feel something of the honesty and the relief and the empowerment and the compassionate, maybe forgiveness of themselves. You see that. So having had those experiences repeatedly, plus other things I've mentioned in this discussion, it gives me great confidence in the fact that if we get the right help, we can end up creating an action strategy that we can actually recognize what we need to do, and with some patience and some compassion, mostly self-compassion, we can go about making the changes that we want. And those changes are always towards the good. Action strategy. That's what I think about that.
Thank you. Goned, I'm going to just reel off a few questions here. One is actually from Karen. Karen just wants you to know it's good to hear your voice again. And she now she's got a master's degree in spiritual science, and she has a question about the 3 selves: your higher self, your conscious self, and then your basic self. Does this app relate to the 3 selves, or how would you explain it?
You know, lots of ways to cut a pie. And there are so many different principled concepts about how to understand us, you know, higher self and basic self and so on. I don't know how to answer that briefly. I recognize it, I honor it. It may be only a coincidence that I've chosen 3 processes, identified as conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. I believe that what Karen calls the higher self is the fundamental resource of our being that allows us to trust ourselves, and that what we'll call the other aspects of the self are always seeking an integration with that higher self. So I'll apologize by making it a short answer, because actually it's almost, for me, impossible to answer that briefly and give it the respect that it deserves. But I would say that, if anything, the guiding principle and what you can trust in emotional insight relates very strongly and directly to what Karen is calling the higher self.
Thank you. A bit of a question.
Karen, we can talk more. We can talk more at some other time if you like. I admire the perspective on the question. Thank you.
And on that note, I mean, Garnett loves conversations between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning his time. So I'll give you his personal phone line, his email, his Skype, his all the different contacts. So don't be shy.
In relation to that, if anybody wants to know the future, just call me, because I'm 14 hours ahead of California. Right?
So I guess you heard about the gay marriage and that being approved even way before us, eh?
Oh yeah, Oscar and I talked about it this morning. He's one of my gibbons.
Garnett, I've got another question here in terms of, I know you touched on the concept about a professional version, which we understand is certainly, it's in, it's like this, it's like when you go to watch the cinema and you see the trailers, it's sort of coming soon. However, as as an existing clinician, how would they use this app that we currently have in a clinical practice?
You can sit there as a compassionate friend and as a helper and as a resource, where the person can have the app, listen to it. If you've got a splitter on your headphones, you can both listen to it at the same time. You can share the screen. If I was a user and let's say Karen was willing to help me, I could sit and actually speak to her about what it is that's coming to me in the experience. I could share with her, let's say, 3 clues that come up. I can share with her the sentence that I write. I can share with her, if I'm doing creative imagery, what I see in the painting. It presents itself in a very open and fluid way, and I would say that the creative use of it is only limited by the degree to which the principal user and the attending helper want to share in the process together. So it's all, in a sense, it's open to interpretation. It's just that the physical design of the software doesn't make that as efficient as it could be if the practitioner were, say, sharing the same screen, or even having the screen to themselves and directing the client. But I've several times sat with people, had them using the app and sharing what they experience and think with me as they go along and do it. So, I'd say it's as open as you want to be creative. The one thing I would advise is the principal attitude is that the person doing the process, or what I call the user or the client, that they come to the realizations because they come to the realizations. Be careful as a practitioner to not tell them what the answers are. That's something that I'm quite convinced is an important feature. Let the user come to their understandings. If you're being a helper, be a reflection, a mirror, and basically stay out of their business. If that's not too bad a way of saying it, I'm not sure. Hello?
Garnett, thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I lost you.
No,
okay.
Absolutely still here. Garnett, a couple of, let me just have a quick look, see. In terms of the way the actual sounds or the signals are delivered, perhaps you could just sort of,
Yes.
you could touch on that. And then what's the amount of time does a session typically take, please?
Okay, I'll answer the second question first. A session that is self-guided, meaning that there's no helper, because the helper will tend to expand the amount of time because they're interacting. If you're doing it yourself, by yourself, it's flexible. You know, I would say a person averaged, and then when you get to the insight reinforcements, however long you want to do those, I'll do those as an add-on. But to get through the session, to the action strategy, to the session overview, you know, like if you're really good with just getting it, and you trust that, the spontaneous insight process, I mean, shoot, you can, from beginning to end, it can be 10, 15 minutes. If you're more hesitant, you need time, you're reflecting, or you're, let's say, going into secrets and lies, which can take time, it can expand beyond the half an hour. But I would say, you know, roughly speaking, if you're sincere, and I have to say, if the user is sincere, and you're not testing or playing games or goofing around, or you're not too afraid and reluctant and being devious, if you're somewhere in the middle, about a half an hour is going to be okay. The entrainment tones and the, pardon me, not that, the insight reinforcements, I'm looking at this. The insight reinforcements, you know, they're not magic. They require time because there's function involved. And it's a little, can you eat your lunch? You know, it can be quick or you can be slow. The key to good effects from the insight reinforcements, I would say, tends more to be the number of repetitions as opposed to one big long session. Like, you know, I would say it's better to do it 10 minutes, say 3 times a day, than to do one time of a half an hour. It amounts to the same 30 minutes, but, you know, when you introduce signals into complex systems, the complex systems have very bold proprietary activities. When you send the signal in, the complex system looks at the signal and then will rapidly integrate it or override it, and it needs to be reinforced again. I go back and I think it's a very fair Bach flower remedies or low potency homeopathics. Much better to do it several times a day than one big glug at a time. So for the crystalline strategy and the sonic signatures, for the sonic signatures, the minimum amount of time you can use is 3 minutes. You'll see the time bar does not go less than 3 minutes. It's because each of the 3 flower remedies that are encoded will play for 1 minute each. So 3 signatures, 1 minute each, equals a minimum set time of 3 minutes. And then after 3 minutes, it repeats again and then repeats again. The crystalline strategy, you can go as low 1 minute because it's the same encoded message that is going to be looping and looping and looping. Those are the minimums. So crystalline strategy, minimum, 1 minute. Sonic signatures, minimum, 3 minutes. I would say, you know, a good reinforcement, you know, you got to give yourself, I would say, you know, 5 to 10 minutes. I've been asked questions by some people, for example, well, can I go about doing other things while I experience the reinforcements through the headphones? I recommend headphones because you can put it on speaker. They're designed to go on speaker, so you can have it playing as kind of a sonic incense in the room if you want. That's okay. You know, giving it some amount of undivided attention is obviously a good thing. Let it sink in. On the other hand, it doesn't demand that you sit and think some special thought during that time. So, you know, you can just listen to it and kind of take a nap or doze or just deeply relax. Or you can even go about some other kind of activity if you have it on some kind of external speaker. In a way, it's kind of common sense. It's also like drinking water. You can't drink just, half a gallon at one time. You drink it throughout the day. And when you take a glass of water, you'll notice when you feel like you want to have a second glass or not. Go by your thirst. Trust yourself, as we say. Be true to yourself. And you can also gauge the amount of time based on your subjective reaction to it. Sometimes you may just feel hungry to keep going. Other times, 5 minutes and you feel satisfied. In that way, I place a lot of credibility on a person's own subjective sense as to what works for them, what feels good for them. It's not a whole bunch of shoulds. Okay.
Thank you. Garnet, thank you very much for that. Another question we have is in terms of the actual professional version, when it'll be available.
Yeah.
And just to answer that, typically the way we will structure this is that as long as you are an existing owner of the emotional insight now, when we actually release the professional version, obviously there will be a slight savings there as well. So, my suggestion is make hay while the sun shines. You can get the app now, you can work with it, and then when we release the professional version, there will be a sort of savings opportunity there. I don't know if you'd like to expand on that, Garnet?
Well, yeah, the professional version, I design things, and then I work with our lead programmer and any other programmers, and I do that under the management of Ryan. Ryan, in terms of Possibility Wave, one of the hats he wears is product development. It takes a lot of time to do these things well. The professional version of Emotional Insight to me is a very attractive project and product. I'm enthusiastic about it. It'll be a substantial expansion over what you see in the user version. Right now, our next task as Possibility Wave is to finish the development of Adapt Wellness, which is a highly innovative, unique practitioners program that focuses on the adaptive capacity aspect of wellness. Nothing like it exists. Once we get that out there, then it clears our table for product development. And we have a couple of choices as to what comes next. In honesty, we haven't decided yet what will be the immediate next step. But if I have anything to say about it, the professional version of Emotional Insight is a gotta do and gotta have. So I apologize to say we don't know when, but certainly I already have advanced designs completed, and it's a question of programming and also management of the company's resources and timelines. And much of that goes back to Ryan. Okay.
Garnet, in closing, do you have anything else you want to say? I think we've gone through the
Ryan,
questions.
are you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. Yeah, I'm here.
Fantastic. So in closing, we've sort of hit the hour mark. I'd like to end it. Perhaps you just want to end maybe with a brief synopsis or last parting words?
Well, I'll say that there's a good deal more that can be discussed. More information will be coming out. There's some very bright people that have become interested and involved, and they'll have their perspectives as trainers and distributors and users. I'm not wanting to open up the door too wide, but as Ryan has mentioned, I'm very open to spending time via Skype with persons that you just want to learn more or talk more at this stage, because there's a lot of newness to this. It doesn't resemble things that are out there. And because of that, I want you to feel that you're satisfied in your understandings, and I'm also happy to spend some time with you. So if you want to do that, please contact Ryan. He's the organizer. Also, with the time differences that most of us have, I will retract one of Ryan's statements. No, I don't want to do it between 2 and 4 o'clock a.m. I get up at 5 a.m. That's early enough. Okay? Thank you all so very much. I appreciate your time. I really do.
Thank you very much. And for those of you that have taken your time out on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening, I guess, certainly thank you very much, and have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.